Who is the MVP of the Minnesota Vikings roster? This take is presented by Hoagland Farm. Contact Hoagland Farms at 952-491-1541 and get the best rotationally grazed 100% grass-fed beef. Delicious steaks, amazing beef, saliva-tasting chuck roasts. Contact Hoagland Farm and get it all. 952-491-1541 and get 20% off your first order by mentioning the Minnesota Tim Podcast. 952-491-1541. 20% off by mentioning the Minnesota Tim Podcast. Okay, so the question is obvious. Well, the answer is obvious. The question was, who is the MVP of the Minnesota Vikings roster? And obviously, it's going to be Justin Jefferson. There is no other player that is going to match Justin Jefferson's skill set, his ability at any position. You know, you take a guy like Justin Jefferson at the wide receiver position. Obviously, he's better than Addison. Obviously, he's better than any other wide receiver on the Minnesota Vikings roster. But comparing positions, there's no quarterback as good at the quarterback position than Justin Jefferson is at the wide receiver position. And it goes across the board defensively, offensively, at any single position on the Minnesota Vikings roster. I don't necessarily think that's the question. I think the question that needs to be answered is it a good thing that Justin Jefferson is the MVP on the Minnesota Vikings roster? So per Alec Lewis, and I get this from the Purple Persuasion Twitter account. You need to follow this Twitter account. Best Minnesota Vikings Twitter account there is. So Alec Lewis writes this. Breaking news, he is a good player. Quick, fast, versatile, dependable, tough. You know, head coach Kevin O'Connell has, and this is not hyperbole, built a offense around Jefferson's skill set. He is the primary pass catcher on most downs. And once defenses decide to double or triple him, he becomes an essential decoy. The Vikings' addition of Aaron Jones is an interesting layer to this upcoming season. The more success the Vikings have on the ground, the fewer men defenses can allocate to Jefferson in coverage. And the fewer men defenses can allocate to Jefferson in coverage, the more he can take over a game. The record-breaking extension will not prevent Jefferson from wanting to set reception and receiving yard records, especially after missing nearly half of last season with a hamstring strain. So let's just call it like it is. There is no other wide receiver in the league that I would rather have than Justin Jefferson. He is a leader. He wants to be a leader. He had absolutely zero drama, none whatsoever, in this whole contract extension thing. Look at Brandon Ayuk with the San Francisco 49ers. Look at CeeDee Lamb with the Dallas Cowboys. These guys are drama freaks. And here's Justin Jefferson. Silence. Making absolutely no noise. Not unfollowing the Minnesota Vikings on social media. Not liking cryptic tweets. Not replying to stupid things. Not going on podcasts and saying bad things about the Minnesota Vikings organization. Minnesota Vikings and Justin Jefferson are a match made in heaven. And there's no more. There's no more?
Huh?
There is no. I'm struggling with this word. There's not a more mature wide receiver in the NFL than Justin Jefferson. It's just and potentially in NFL history, because what he did was ridiculous. Anyway, the question to get back to, is it good that JJ is the MVP of the Minnesota Vikings roster? And honestly, I'm going to say no. It is not good. Because what that means, and hopefully this changes in the future, but what that means is that the Minnesota Vikings do not have an elite quarterback. It means that a guy like Sam Darnold is the Minnesota Vikings quarterback, and that means the Minnesota Vikings offense is limited. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes. He is the MVP of that offense. They do not have a great wide receiver on their offense. They have Travis Kelce. And he carried the Kansas City Chiefs to back-to-back Super Bowls. You look at the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. He is the MVP of that offense, and he has carried the Buffalo Bills to lots of success. They haven't won a Super Bowl, but they've won multiple playoff games. They've made it to the playoffs for at least a few consecutive years. And this sentence stands out to me in this Alec Lewis article. He says, the Vikings' addition of Aaron Jones is an interesting layer to the upcoming season. The more success the Vikings have on the ground, the fewer men defenses can allocate to Jefferson in coverage. So some of Jefferson's numbers and his success individually and as a team, because the Minnesota Vikings, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, are going to be a better team if Justin Jefferson is putting up high receiving numbers. And that sentence admits that some of Justin Jefferson's success is dependent on other players on the Minnesota Vikings roster. Now, you could argue, well, Patrick Mahomes, the receiver needs to catch the ball, the offensive line needs to block. Patrick Mahomes doesn't need a running back to put up great numbers or solid numbers in order for him to be an effective passer of the football. And that's my point. I'm not hating on Justin Jefferson. I don't think this is some hot take that some people are going to comment to say, oh, you are stupid. You're an idiot. How can you not see this? All I'm saying is this sentence and Justin Jefferson's position on the Minnesota Vikings roster is that success is dependent on Aaron Jones and the Minnesota Vikings' success on the ground and Sam Darnold's success and his ability to throw the ball accurately and effectively. Because what's true is defenses are going to load up on Justin Jefferson. It's true. I mean, he's going to get double coverage, triple coverage sometimes. So, of course, it's just the nature of the position. In order for him to be a successful wide receiver in the NFL, which he's already proven he's the best, or arguably the best, he needs help from the quarterback position, from the running back position. And last year, he missed a lot of games with his hamstring injury. It was terrible. But the Minnesota Vikings, they actually won quite a few games without him. I'm pretty sure the Minnesota Vikings, with Justin Jefferson, I think they went 1-7 last year. I'm pretty sure that's true. And without Justin Jefferson, they beat the San Francisco 49ers with Jordan Addison as wide receiver 1. I mean, I'm just going to look this up right here. Give me a second, because this matters. Do you think the Kansas City Chiefs are winning lots of games without Patrick Mahomes? I don't think so. Do you think the Buffalo Bills are winning lots of games without Josh Allen? No way. My point is not to bash Justin Jefferson. My point is to tell you that it's not necessarily a good thing that a wide receiver on the Minnesota Vikings roster is the MVP. I mean, he obviously is. So, okay, they went 0-3 to start the season. They lost to the Bucks, the Eagles, the Chargers. They beat the Carolina Panthers 1-3. Do I have this right? This feels like 2 years ago. Because when did Kirk Cousins get hurt? He got hurt at the Packers. Okay, this is right. Yeah, this is right. Carolina Panthers 1-3. Chiefs 1-4. Beat the Bears 2-4. And Justin Jefferson got hurt against the Kansas City Chiefs. Then we beat the Bears without him. We beat the San Francisco 49ers without him. We beat the Green Bay Packers without him. We beat the Atlanta Falcons without him. We beat the New Orleans Saints without him. We lost to the Denver Broncos. We lost to the Chicago Bears. And then he came back for the Las Vegas Raiders game. We beat them. Lost to the Bengals, Lions, Packers, Lions. So Justin Jefferson was only a part of 2 wins last year. And the Minnesota Vikings, how many games did they win in a row? They beat the Bears, 49ers, Packers, Falcons, Saints. So the Minnesota Vikings, after JJ went down, were 1-4. And after that, they went 4 in a row. They won 4 in a row. And at one point had an 80% chance of making the playoffs until they completely collapsed at the end of the season. So, again, I'm not bashing Justin Jefferson, but I'm just showing you how valuable the wide receiver position is and Justin Jefferson's value on the Minnesota Vikings roster and on an NFL roster compared to other positions. Okay? Do not take my words out of context. JJ is great. I love JJ. No other wide receiver in the NFL I would rather have on his on a roster. But his value is limited. He's not a quarterback. Because those guys' value, that position's value, is unlimited. There's not a defense that can put 2 or 3 guys on a quarterback and say, you know what, go stop him from making a play. And that happens to Justin Jefferson all the time. So those are just my takeaways. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this podcast part of your day. Contact Oakland Farms at 952-491-1541. Thank you for making this podcast a part of your Thank you for making this podcast a part of your day.